Doctor, what excites you right now about oncology and what you've seen at the conference so far?
Thank you so much for having me on the show. There are two major themes in cancer drug development these days. One is the concept of targeted drug therapies, and the second is immune-oncology. Targeted drug therapies is based on understanding the specific mutations which are driving an individual's cancer, and then using the drugs which treat those specific mutations. I have no doubt going forward that all cancers will be sequenced to understand their mutational status. The second major theme is immune-oncology, and that's utilizing the body's own immune system to attack the cancer. It turns out these two major themes have really transformed cancer from what used to be a rapidly fatal disease to something which might be a long-term chronic disease, or maybe something which might even be cured. I think melanoma is the perfect case in point there.
What are some companies in this space that you're most focused or excited about?
Right, so one of the hottest areas, as I mentioned, is immuno-oncology. And the biggest companies in that space are Bristol Myers Squibb with their drug Opdivo and Merck with their drug Keytruda. Now, these two drugs have been approved in two indications so far, melanoma and lung cancer, but we're seeing evolving efficacy across the spectrum of cancers, including renal cell cancer, bladder cancer, small cell cancer. I think eventually what we'll see is a spectrum across a broad efficacy across a broad spectrum of cancers, such that the market potential for this class of drugs could be north of $10 billion. Given that these will be the new standard of care of cancer, I think this drives a broad wave of growth for the pharmaceutical sector.
Do you see more potential for development in either sort of the gene-specific stuff or the immunotherapy stuff in big pharma companies, or are small biotechs leading the way?
Big pharma companies have primarily driven most of this early growth, but I would say that there are several biotech companies that are following along in the next generation of immunotherapies. I would point to one of my favorite names in the space, Incyte Pharmaceuticals. I really see them as developing the next generation of immuno-oncology drugs. Their first drug, Jakafi, has been approved for two cancers, polycythemia vera and myelofibrosis. These should be billion-dollar indications alone. But going forward, I think the drug potentially has efficacy across a broad spectrum of cancers, including pancreatic cancer and breast cancer. I had the chance to sit down with their chief scientific officer yesterday, Reed Hubert. I think he and the rest of the management team have really assembled the most thoughtful and productive pipeline in the biotech industry.
Is there any concern that biotech, from an investment standpoint, could be a bit overheated? There is so much enthusiasm and noise right now.
Yeah, I have to say that as a fundamental biotech investor who's value-focused, that the industry is not cheap right now. But I will also tell you that at Burrage Capital, we're very optimistic about the long-term prospects. You know, the truth of the matter is, as long as there are cancers to be treated and as long as there are unmet medical needs, there's plenty of drug development and plenty of growth to be had. I think GBM is a perfect example. We heard yesterday that Vice President Biden's son died at the age of 46 from brain cancer. While GBM brain cancer is still a completely unmet medical need with very few treatment options, very little efficacy. As long as there are cancers to be treated and unmet medical needs, we'll see ongoing growth in the industry.
Doctor, these kinds of conferences like ASCO, for example, are places where people often drop some bombshells. Anything really surprising over the weekend?
I think there's always the hem and haw of what the eventual opportunity will be in immuno-oncology, but I think if you take the long-term perspective, so maybe people were expecting efficacy in a certain type of cancer, which didn't turn out to be true, and so I think that's why we see certain volatility, even in a big cap company like Bristol Myers Squibb. But I think what you have to take.
No, go ahead.
Take as a long-term perspective, and really that this class of agents is clearly working, and what we have to do is, in a systematic way, identify those cancers where it works, and that leads to long-term growth of these products.
Thank you for joining us, Dr. Christiana Bardon, a portfolio manager at Burrage Capital.